Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago, one of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose, as long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we are going to really squarely smash the Bears in the face for being terrible. We're going to be talking about what's going on in the NHL, the little Bulls basketball, and some odds and ends here and there. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the Stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. While the NHL is not going on, you should head on over to icehogs.com, get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, tickets, and more. Put those things in holiday stockings and under the tree, and tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Alex, we are in a rare Tuesday edition of this show after a god-awful Bears Monday night performance. How are you doing?
Well, other than the Bears, I'm doing quite well. You know, it was Spider-Man weekend and I saw it and I loved it. And I was really super excited to finally see a movie that I was hyped for so long. And, you know, riding off that high, you get to the Bears game and all of a sudden everything is just awful and miserable again. And if you want to make a video, you know, a tape of, you know, like an instructional video of how to give a team a win, you can honestly watch that Bears game last night. Seriously, like you want to give a team that really didn't do anything to win a win. Watch that game. Perfect example of it.
You know, I mean, just quickly going back, Spider-Man was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's only been out a couple days, so we won't spoil anything, but I went in with extraordinarily high expectations. They were not only met, they were exceeded.
Oh, yeah. You know, I went in with high expectations, too, and you can feel the hype around it for so long. I mean, it was when the trailer came out, the views just piled up. I mean, it was probably the most anticipated trailer because there were so many mysteries surrounding it. There was so much speculation. Who was going to be in it? What was their role going to be in it? And then we get the trailer. It's like, okay, so we're seeing other universes collide here, clearly. So that opens the door for a lot of possibilities. And then it all came together and the feeling was great. And, you know, it was more than just, oh, it's a great nostalgic feeling. Obviously, that was a big part of it. But there was also that feeling of redemption for a number of reasons. And that just added to the joy of the movie. And you walked out of that movie saying, wow, that just felt really good. It felt like Spider-Man truly has taken the mantle on top of the superhero chain. Because, I mean, let's face it, Spider-Man's one of the most popular superheroes out there, right? I mean, he always has been. And having a movie like this really asserts, like, just Spider-Man's dominance in superhero culture. We've had several other superhero movies come out in the MCU or DC or whatever. I mean, you had Shang-Chi, which was pretty good. You just had Eternals, which I've still yet to see. But you just seeing this, you just realize just how big Spider-Man is just in culture. I mean, really.
Absolutely. It's funny because the MCU has gotten pretty big, but the center of the MCU has always been Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, growing up as a comic book reader, Iron Man was not anywhere close to being the upper echelon of characters.
Right.
And so when he became the face and the center of the MC universe. Uh, it was a little weird because you're like, oh, okay, they took like a BC list character and made him the face when you have like Spider-Man. And I get the rights issues that were around it, but
Yeah, with Sony and whatnot.
it's nice to see Spider-Man coming back to being the face because he has the best villains. He's just the most relatable. And I'm very excited because there's a YouTuber who has some sort of connection to somebody that works for Marvel on multiple movies, not like on one set. And he, through his contact, made 3 big spoilers for the latest Spider-Man movie. And they were the big ones. And they all became true. And so it's very clear that he does have a source. He said that they filmed another scene during that movie that was not meant for that movie. It was meant for another movie that's coming out soon, which would mean Doctor Strange 2. So apparently they're going to introduce a big character via a Spider-Man scene that's going to occur during Doctor Strange 2.
Interesting.
He didn't name the character, so now I'm excited about Doctor Strange 2.
Oh yeah, and you saw a preview of Multiverse of Madness after the movie. Spoiler alert. But when you saw that preview for it, you knew things were going to get really, really wacky. I mean, really, ever since the multiverse was formally introduced, we saw it in the Loki TV series, and we knew that multiverse was going to be a really big part of everything. You had the show What If, multiple universes, multiple realities. And, now this is where we are in the MCU. We're getting universes colliding. So it really opens the door for a lot of things to happen. And what I think is really exciting about all this is the fact that they've gotten off to such a great start, because multiverse is, has the potential to be really complicated, and it's easy for things to go off the rail. And when you have something like this, you want to get off to a good start. So having Spider-Man, this movie, and having a really solid show like Loki kick off this multiverse concept, doing it well, it's a good sign, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And, it's nice because it'll allow for, this is speculation on my part, but seamless addition of new X-Men and new Fantastic Four into the MCU without having to explain any of the last movies at all.
Yeah, and that includes Deadpool, obviously.
Yeah, Deadpool, which I cannot wait for him to be included in the Avengers or some other series, not just a standalone, because I think that would be fantastic.
Absolutely. And going back to just Spider-Man himself really quick is, I was born in 94, and the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie came out in 2002, I want to say. And that was really like my introduction to superhero movies. Like that was my superhero introduction. So Spider-Man was really the first superhero I followed. Just in addition to Spider-Man being so big, the fact that Spider-Man is, was really a big part of my childhood, that made this movie all the more special for so many reasons. And what I think the MCU did a good job of was introducing Tom Holland's Spider-Man in a different way, but have a similar backstory. Like it's my opinion that they did right by not doing another Spider-Man origin story. Like the MCU, Tom Holland didn't need the scene where he's getting bitten by a spider and suddenly he's climbing on walls and he's figuring out all this stuff. We didn't really need that, in my opinion.
Or Uncle Ben.
Or right. I mean, Aunt May was really Uncle Ben, let's be real, in this universe. But yeah, I mean, you get not saying that the Spider-Man origin story is bad. I'm just saying we've seen it before, we know what it is, and I just feel like in the MCU, the potential of doing that kind of a movie, it kind of would have probably felt like a copy paste. So I'm glad they introduced Spider-Man the way they did by bringing him into Civil War and then giving him his first movie where he's like, yeah, he's already Spider-Man and this is just what his life is like. And this is how he's getting more into things. And he's got this relationship with Tony Stark. I think they made the right decision on that.
Yeah, it's kind of like in every Batman movie, they have the scene where his parents get killed and the pearls spill onto the, to the alley concrete. And we get it. We all know it. We don't need to have it happen again and again and again in movies and Batman cartoon movies. And it's the same thing. We don't need to see that bit. You can sort of jump in at some point because it's part of, it's part of pop culture. You just sort of know those things.
Right, exactly.
But not to give away a spoiler, but I don't know if you noticed the character that they introduced in the post-credits scene that was the extended trailer for Doctor Strange 2.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you saw the character that they introduced in that trailer.
I did. I won't say anything yet. It's still pretty soon after it came out, but yes.
Yeah, I was pretty excited. I usually go to the movies with a buddy of mine who's a comic nerd as well, but he did not know this character because this character is fairly new in the comic world. But I was pretty excited about it, so I can't wait now for the sequel to Doctor Strange because I think that's going to be a fantastic movie.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. And just, a quick comment I have to make whenever I talk about Spider-Man is I am so glad that one thing that the MCU is keeping consistent with the others, with the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, is they got J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. Can you imagine anyone else in that role other than him? I mean, he's just so perfect.
Well, it's funny because if you would have told me, because I know him from a lot of other things, and when he was first introduced as he's going to be J. Jonah Jameson, I'm like, I don't see it. But then once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. And yeah, I'm like, nope, that's the guy. That's the guy. It would be like changing Flo from the Progressive commercials. It's like, no, that's Flo. That's Flo.
Right. And the fact that they modernized the Daily Bugle as being like this internet/television news station, I liked that adaptation of how they made the Daily Bugle in the MCU. I think it was really relevant and it fit kind of modern culture well. It's like, you still have the Daily Bugle. It's still a big part, but it's a little different format.
Yeah, because that fits in with what's going on today. It's done as a faux news type program, and where you can just spend your whole time railing on a person and spin what the truth is, and that's really how they did it. And it was like, okay, that's a nice upgrade, a nice right. A nice switch to modernize it a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
So when does Doctor Strange come out?
I don't know exactly. I knew, but I can't remember. I saw a date somewhere. Is it next year?
I think sometime. Yeah. We only got a week left here.
Like late next year. I'd have to look.
Let's see. Looks like May 6th. So we got a while.
Yeah, we got a ways to go.
I hear they're doing reshoots still. So from what I hear is that there's going to be they're not reshoots per se, like where they're reshooting to fix things. They're doing additional shoots to try to make sure that there's no spoilers. So they're going to film things that weren't in the script to put it in there to make sure that they don't leak out, is what I'm hearing.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I could see that. That makes sense. Yeah.
It's kind of like how, I don't know if you watched Hawkeye.
Mm-hmm.
Did you finish it?
There's one more episode. I don't know if that came out today or that's coming out tomorrow. I'm through 5 episodes.
I think that's it.
Okay.
I think it's just 5.
I thought there was one more conclusion. I thought it was going to be 6 total.
Maybe. Let's see. Hold on. I thought it was only the 5. That's what somebody told me.
There's 5 out now.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. December 22nd. That would be tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow. Oh, okay. That's good. That's good. Yeah, because they the character that they introduced in episode 5, I read a thing about how they had to sneak the actor and the actor's stunt doubles and body doubles in through back entrances, so it didn't leak out that they were involved.
Really?
Yes.
For that character, I mean, it was kind of obvious. Okay.
It's what I read. So I'm excited about that, but the Doctor Strange, I'm sure there's going to be some crazy stuff and I'm going to guess that, I mean, this is pure speculation out of Sean's brain, that in Doctor Strange, we are going to get some glimpse of either the X-Men or Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I could see that, definitely.
Because we are at the point where they've got to introduce them, and the rumors are that there's already release dates, even though they haven't started filming at all, that there's release dates. Those are some of the untitled movies that are on the docket. So if that's the case, then yeah, they've got to introduce them. MCU is not just going to pull those out of the, here's the X-Men, and with no context, they're going to introduce them somehow.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense. That would all make sense.
Yeah, so that's what I think we'll see. Even if it's just like a, Wolverine, or I don't know, Reed Richards doing something. We're gonna catch a glimpse, and that'll be an introduction. So that'll be rad. And that's my guess of what will happen.
Yeah, no, I could totally see it. It would line up and make sense for what's going on and who's been introduced versus who hasn't been introduced in the MCU.
But let's swing back to this Bears game that happened, because it was dog shit. I mean, it's funny. The game played out a whole lot different. I knew the Bears weren't going to win going into this game, but it played out a whole lot different than my expectations of the game were going to be. Like I was like, okay, the Vikings have a terrible defense, and they've got a quarterback who is performing pretty well and is not turning the ball over and throwing a lot of touchdowns compared to interceptions. And they've got one of the best wide receivers in football and one of the best running backs in football. I was like, okay, I picture this to be a lot like the first half of the Green Bay game, where the Bears are scoring, but they're also giving up a lot of points, especially since the Bears had every single starting defensive back out with COVID.
I said the exact same thing you did. I thought it was going to be a loss in the other sense. I mean, there were people who were talking about Justin Jefferson potentially going for the all-time single game receiving record. And you had every right to believe it. Those two, Cousins and Jefferson, have obviously been a really good duo. And everybody in the Bears secondary had COVID. But what happened was quite the opposite. And I don't have many expectations for the offense, but damn it, I thought that the offense was actually going to do some good things last night, considering who they were playing, considering the week they were coming off of, considering the fact that you saw Justin Fields come back last week and, not all the decision-making was great. It's going to be hard for a rookie to make all great decision-making, but, all things considering, you thought there's reason to believe that they could put some points on the board and Justin Fields can, maybe do some things. Obviously, Matt Nagy calling the play should have been a warning right off the bat, but what we got was just a joke. It was an absolute joke.
If the Bears would have just kicked a field goal every time they hit the 30-yard mark in this game, they would have won.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not including that last touchdown.
Yeah.
they were able to move, from the 20 to the 20. They had no issues really moving the ball other than turnovers. None. But once they got within the 30-yard line, definitely in the red zone, the wheels just came off and they didn't know what to do. And that's a complete indictment of Matt Nagy's offense.
Offensive drove inside the 30-yard line 6 times for 9 total points. They also had the ball at the 31 after that Kirk Cousins interception towards the end of the half. So 7 times you were well into their territory and you got 9 total points. 9 total points, 370 yards of offense, and you got 9 total points. They almost look like they are purposefully going out there and finding ways not to score by getting in it deep into enemy territory. The only thing you couldn't check off on your bingo card was an interception. They lost fumbles. They had stupid, idiotic penalties. They, had bad play calling. They had dropped passes. You name it. Outside the interceptions, they found every single way not to score. And it would have been one thing if they would have just gotten completely blown out and it wouldn't have mattered anyway. But damn it, that was a game you should have won. And that was a game that you sit there and watch, and all you want to do is want to bang your head on a wall, rub a cheese grater across your face, and here I am, Mr. Bears apathy, and yet what did they do? They found a way to piss me off. They found a way to make me mad about a game that really didn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things. Because you know what? You want to go out and beat your rivals. They may not be the Packers, but the Vikings are basically the second biggest rival team to you. And you're on national TV again, and you made asses of yourself again, and it never ends. It never goddamn ends. And I want to take a quick second here, a really quick second. Props on the defense. Props on guys like Thomas Graham, Akeem Hicks coming back, Robert Quinn. Those guys played their hearts out, and they stepped the hell up. They put together a winning effort last night.
Thomas Graham is a guy that the Bears drafted in, I believe, the 6th round of this past draft.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't play the previous season. In his last year in college, he didn't play. He opted out because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have much film on him, recent film. The Bears opted to cut him in when the final roster was due. They cut him and put him on the practice squad. And, I and a bunch of other people have pretty much said that they did that with 2 of their draft picks, with Daz Newsome, who I sort of was, he was a guy who broke his collarbone in training camp and missed a bunch of training camp. So you're like, okay, I guess I can sort of understand that. But they put these 2 draft picks. They didn't make the final roster. They ended up being on the practice squad. And at some point in this season, when it's clear Allen Robinson's been injured and you're not getting good wide receiver play, why don't you see what you can do with Daz Newsome? And the same thing with whoever it is that they put opposite of Jalon Johnson was terrible, whether it be Kendall Vildor or whether it be Artie Burns or whoever, was awful. Why not? This is a lost season. Why not see what Thomas Graham can do? Finally, last night, out of absolute sheer necessity, they went, okay, we're going to play him. And he was really good. He was really good. I think I saw the stats that he got a 91, almost, it was like a 90.8 or something grade on Pro Football Focus. He only allowed 10 yards of receiving yards, no first downs. He played fantastic. And you're like, okay, we can, I mean, sure, it's one game, but it's one game against a pretty good passing defense. And they held the Vikings to under 200 yards of total offense. Kirk Cousins was held to 87 yards passing. Their number one running back was held under 100 yards and 3.2 yards per carry, with his longest run being 10 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bears lost that game.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. 193 yards. Totally gave up.
The Bears almost doubled their number of total yards.
Mm-hmm.
And in the first 59 minutes and 59 seconds of that game, they had 3 points to show for it.
Yeah. 370 yards, and you can't even get double-digit points. You have to try to not score. I mean, it is just ridiculous. I mean, you could replay those same scenarios a billion times with every other NFL team, and I guarantee you pretty much all of them are able to score much more effectively. And you know what? We could talk about how, okay, field goals, if they would just kick field goals, they would have won. I get going for it on the fourth downs. I get it. I think people would be ultimately annoyed if they just would have kicked field goals. I mean, if it would have won in the game, we might not have looked at it in the same way, but we all know the saying, you got to go for touchdowns, and we've been wanting for more aggressiveness, and I get that. The problem is your fourth down conversions didn't work. They
didn't just not work. They were so poorly put together that you're like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, if you
that 4th and 1, what the fuck was that?
Like, if you literally don't know what to do, then just kick the field goal. Like, if you're like, I have no idea what to call here, then just go with the field goal, because that is a huge problem. When you can't even get the play set up to run the play, then if that's the case, it's much better to have 3 points than the disaster that you had.
I mean, we got to talk about that 4th and 1, right?
Go for it.
I mean, did that not sum up the Matt Nagy era right there when it comes to offense? Fake the handoff to nobody. Have your guys blocking one way, your quarterback's going the other way, and you have virtually no chance of converting.
It was like you just let a fan pick the play and they'd never practiced it before. Like, here, the fan should make up a play and go from there.
It was like mashing buttons on Madden.
I don't know what to say anymore. Like, the one positive thing I can say is we've been hearing more and more that players are quitting, and we know Allen Robinson's quit. Like, we know he's quit.
It's obvious.
He's quit. He's a quitter, and good riddance when he goes.
Honestly, I don't want, you know what, at this point, don't even play him another snap this year.
Yeah, I don't want him played anymore. But maybe the other guys that have quit are on the COVID list, but everybody on that field competed last night.
Yes, they did.
Roquan looked great. Robert Quinn looked great. Thomas Graham. I mean, they didn't all look good. They all competed hard.
They gave a shit. Honestly, they gave a shit. And, you know, people will try to compare Matt Nagy to Mark Trestman. And I say, look, we know Matt Nagy isn't the answer going forward. And we know there's a lot of frustration with Matt Nagy. But in 2014, if you want to talk about a team that flat out quit on their coach, that was Mark Trestman. The one saving grace is that at least this team still gives a shit. These players do.
That's something you can say about Matt Nagy is he still cares. Like, he was fired up last night, rightfully so. I tweeted out that Matt Nagy knows he's getting fired. Why doesn't he just fight one of the refs? And that I fully back that, because he was about ready to. That wasn't the worst reffing performance I've seen in a Bears game this season, but it was bad.
Oh, it was awful. Yeah, there was a lot of awful calls. And frankly, I didn't really want to talk much about the reffing because I think the point is moot, because the Bears easily could have overcome those refs with some actual competent offense, but they didn't. But yeah, I mean, there's absolutely no question that there was some awful calls or no calls in that game. It was, once again, you have another nationally televised game and the refs are a big part of the conversation. And yeah, I mean, people could say, well, he's yelling, he's screaming, you calm down. I'm like, you know what? At least these guys give a damn. They may not be good. They may be frustrating as hell. This regime might be a complete mess and they're a laughing stock. This whole team is, but it's still better than them being a laughing stock and not giving a shit. Because that's what we saw in 2014 under Mark Trestman. They didn't give a shit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not giving Matt Nagy a full pass because he's not good at his job. Like I said, he's probably a really good guy. People probably like him as a person. He's just not a good head football coach.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, that's what it is.
And the thing is, fans are frustrated because he won't acknowledge. I don't know if he doesn't know he's a bad football coach or if he's too prideful to admit it. But the frustrating part is he acts like everybody else is dumb except for him. And he keeps doing the same things over and over and getting the same results, same bad results. And he's not changing anything. We're tired of seeing empty backfields. We're tired of minimal rollouts. We're tired of Wildcat. We're tired of
saw another one last night.
We're tired of no max protect. We're tired of putting rookie offensive tackles that come in cold out on an island without any chipping. Like, we're tired of these things. It's not just the fans that are saying that. It's not just the beat writers. It's former players. I don't know if you ever listened to Olin Krutz's podcast. But I check it out every once in a while, but they had an episode after the last game, the first one with Tevin Jenkins playing. He's like, listen, he's like, I was pissed off at the offensive coordinator because he said, we don't feel bad for Tevin. He's got a job to do. He's like, nobody's feeling bad for Tevin Jenkins, but you can go out there and you can make his life easier. And you can say, hey, what are you comfortable with? What can we do to make it easier for you? Give him a hand, give him some chip blocks every now and then. There's a way to do things to make life easier, because when the players on the field are comfortable and doing things that they're good at, you're going to get better results overall on the field. And that's the problem with this whole coaching staff is they have a vision of what they want to do. And if the players that they have aren't able to execute this vision, they would rather lose than adapt. And that is frustrating.
Yes.
That's what we keep seeing.
Yeah, no, I think that's a perfect way to describe it. It really is. And, I like a lot of what Olin Kreutz has to say just about football in general. You want to talk about just a really sharp football mind. I think Olin Kreutz is the type of guy you would want in an organization. Frankly, I think he should be working more in football. I love what he has to say. He always has an answer for everything. And it's he says, oh yeah, we're meatheads, football players, but like, he's a rational thinking guy. And I like what he brings in a lot of what he says. So yeah, I mean, those are all really, really good points. And, it goes back to the fact that this regime and this whole plan with Justin Fields and, everybody, whether it's Tevin Jenkins, Justin Fields, is everything's been so all over the place. You draft Justin Fields and you're like, all right, well, Andy Dalton's our starter. We're not going to work him out. With the starter reps, we're going to, not cater to what he needs. And, with Tevin Jenkins, you're putting him in a situation where he's not comfortable. It just, you see it over and over in this regime. And Justin Fields and Tevin Jenkins are two incredibly important players for your future. And you don't know what to say after a while. You don't.
Yeah, it's frustrating. And to Olin, going back to Olin Kreutz, is, he does know a lot what he's talking about. He clearly knows the X's and O's, and he knows what he's seeing on film, and he knows what it's like to be a player. I don't necessarily agree with some of his big picture ideas or his solutions to problems, but I do agree with you that somebody like him should be brought into this organization because he is not afraid. He will never be a yes man. He's not afraid to tell you his opinions. And I think a big part of the Bears' current culture is nobody's good at their job, but nobody's a contrarian either. So like everybody's just, well, we're all collaborating. We're all on the same page. You know what? At some point, if you go so swimmingly along and everything smooth between you and you're winning, okay. But when you hit a bump in the road and you're still just going along swimmingly, and it's, even though you're off kilter, that's bad. Is clearly you're both on the same, Ryan Pace, Matt Nagy, and all the coaches, you're all on the same page of bad decisions and incorrect ways of going about this because of the record that you have. Is maybe you need a voice in there that just like, no, don't agree with you. No, that's wrong. And there needs to be some headbutting in behind the scenes. There should be no, maybe there's some no brain decisions that you have. Like, oh, hey, Justin Fields is available at 9. Let's go get him. That's a no brain decision. But there's a lot of decisions that need to be made that are not no brain decisions that you really have to be like, all right.
A collaboration though.
I want there to be some dissension. I want somebody that's willing to fight the status quo of where they're at and say, listen, no, what you're doing is wrong. No, and I'm not afraid to say it. I want some, too much of it, then you've got chaos. You get Jacksonville, where the head coach is calling the assistant coaches losers and kicking players. But there should be some healthy disagreements on things because that I think makes you stronger. That's, I think, a voice like an Olin Kreutz that is just not afraid to say, hey, what the direction we're in is bad. And I don't agree with what you're doing. And we need to change this is a good thing.
You know who I've just been begging for the Bears to bring in? Peyton Manning. Talk to him. I would absolutely love to be a fly on the wall of a potential conversation between Ding Dong George, Ding Dong Ted, and Peyton Manning. And Peyton Manning just going in there and saying how everything is cockamamie and backwards, and this is the kind of approach you should be taking. It is my dream for the Chicago Bears to hire Peyton Manning in some form, whether it's a coach, an advisor position, whatever. Just bring him to your organization.
Yeah, I just want a winner that understands football to come in and oversee what's going on. I think you should have a lot of people interested in your job. for head coach. So I don't think that's the problem. I think you probably have less interest in the front office positions because that there's some big holes to fill, some financial issues that got kicked down the road, and dingleberry owners, and limitations on your capacity of your stadium and things like that.
Every Jimmy Graham pass drop that we see, reminding yourself how much money is getting paid, just makes you cringe.
Yeah, but the head coach job should be a very desirable one. You've got a young quarterback that I don't care. I read a lot of naysayers online, and I'm just like, you don't know what you're talking about. This kid is the real deal. There's things that need to be cleaned up, but you put him in a real offense with a real head coach with decent players around him, you're going to see a star. I really think so. And you've got the quarterback in place. You've got a running back in place. You've got bookend tackles, and you've got some key defensive pieces. Like, you're like, okay, like there's things for me to work with here. This isn't a disaster where, you look at the Falcons, you're like, okay, we've got a stud tight end. We've got 100-year-old quarterback that's probably going to be jettisoned. Like, you're looking at this team and you're like, there's actually things to work with here that I think I can win with. So I think you're going to have opportunities for picking the best of the best for head coaches. It's that general manager's front office position. And I'm hearing more and more, which makes me think where there's smoke, there's fire, that George is going to completely reshuffle things at the front office. And I really hope it's a Garpax firing type situation. If they want to make Ryan Pace the new John Paxson, where he's not fired, he's just he's an assistant to George. Okay, whatever. I don't care. It's your money. Pay him whatever you want. But I want him insulated from the new front office staff that's going to come in and redo this organization into a winning football program.
And let me make this very clear. I really think it's important that this new regime, whoever it is, however they construct it, they need to be the ones choosing the coach. I don't want Ding Dong George or Ding Dong Ted choosing the coach, because here's the thing, you're going to need to hire a coach. And like you said, there will be guys willing to come here. The thing is that you need to put together a new front office first. And, you got to take time to do that. So, are they going to miss out on top candidates? I get that there aren't a whole lot of teams looking for new coaches, but if I would choose between Jacksonville and the Bears, I'd probably choose Jacksonville if I was a potential coach. I just, how soon and quickly is this going to come together? Because you're going to need to assemble a new front office, and then you're going to need to have that new front office hire a coach.
We keep hearing about, the new rule change is in effect that you can interview coaching candidates within the last 2 weeks of the season, as long as you've fired your head coach or informed your current head coach that they would not be back. And that's okay, cool. But here's the thing. I don't know how that, and people are like, oh, well, that'll benefit the Bears. You'll get 2 weeks to get a jump start on interviewing coaches. And you hit on that. My caveat on this is that's a cool thing. And it is a good idea to get a jump start on interviewing people, but you don't know who it is that's going to be making that decision.
Mm-hmm.
If Ryan Pace is going to be the guy, I guess you do. But if Ryan Pace is out, or you're moved on to another position, then why in the world would you start interviewing potential coaches? Because that just makes you look like a clown show of an organization. That's another situation where, that's another Bruce Arians situation where you're like, let's do a mock interview here. And like, it's an embarrassment is if you don't have the person in place who's going to hire your new head coach, then guess what? Don't bring in people to interview.
Right.
They
why would you have an old scheme interview something that's going to be gone?
Yeah. Don't interview potential head coaches until you have your new staff in place. And I know that slows things down, but, honestly, any GM that you're going to be interviewing that's worth a salt is already going to have a list of head coaches that they want to interview and bring in to just talk to.
Yeah.
And honestly, they've probably already talked to them. They probably already have a guy in mind that they want to bring in. So don't go interviewing candidates just because, we're allowed to. So let's fire Matt Nagy and then bring in other candidates. That should not be the reason, because until you know who is your front office staff or your front office structure, and is Ryan Pace out? Is Ryan Pace failing up? Is he going to remain as GM? What is it going to be? We need to know before we go ahead and just embarrass ourselves with interviewing coaches where they're coming in going, all right, I'm meeting with George McCaskey. He's, but who's the GM? What's going on here? I have questions and nobody can answer them. Hey, who am I going to directly report to? Who's my GM? How is the what say do I have in the draft situation or on final roster? Oh, I don't know. It does not look good for you.
Excuse me, Mr. Ding Dong, who exactly is in charge here?
Mr. Ding Dong, what is the draft philosophy around here? We go around the head coach and secretly meet at a steakhouse with the guy we want to draft. Yeah, it doesn't sound good. Yeah, but that's what we do here. Because
we're the Proud Bears.
Because we're proud. My mom's real proud. She still drives her car. She still lives on her own. She's 99. My grandpa, maybe you heard of him.
Tradition, football, great stuff.
Did you know that they call a football a pigskin?
He would say that.
My shoes have buckles on them. Mother says that they're good for schoolboys.
My shoes have buckles on them.
Yeah. So this team is a disaster. But I want to talk a little bit about Tevin Jenkins. He had a rough first game. No one's going to deny that. And there was some rough points in this game with penalties. Like he got a holding call that was a bullshit holding call.
Yeah, that was kind of crappy.
That was a bullshit holding call. And my fear is that you get guys that have a reputation that are they're holders, and they just anytime it even could conceivably be in the realm of holding, they throw the flag. And right. I'm afraid of that being Tevin Jenkins, because that was not a hold. That should not have been a hold. He had the false start penalty that it was kind of, if that wouldn't have been, what was it, a 4th and 1, where everybody was on the defense was just looking for any movement that they could jump up and point to.
Yeah, that would have been called.
That wouldn't have been called.
No.
He twitched his calf muscle. Yep. False start.
I mean, he barely moved.
Yeah. So that was kind of a bogus one. But other than that, he allowed one pressure last night. He actually played pretty well. And
in his second career game.
I think he's going to be good. I still think that they're going to switch next season. I think Larry Borum might be a little more fluid and better to play left and have Larry or Tevin Jenkins play right. But I think you really do have two bookend tackles there. And which makes me think, I mean, does Jason Peters, did they suit him back up and make him play swing tackle for the end of his career, or just, put him on IR for these last couple games? I don't know. But I thought Tevin Jenkins played well. And there was one moment that Jermaine Ifedi got really upset with Tevin Jenkins that I totally agreed on. And it's when Justin Fields got hit out of bounds and Tevin Jenkins went over there and had his back and was trying to fight 4 Vikings players. And when he got punched by one of them, he started fighting all 4 of them. Love it. Love it. If you're going to get a penalty, and we all knew he was going to get the penalty and nobody from the Vikings, we all knew that. I'm for it. You back up your quarterback. I would have loved to have seen him take out the guy that hit Justin Fields on that slide. Take him out too. I love it. He's got a mean streak in it, and I like it. I don't know if there was one play where he just completely decleated a guy after the play was over, and I loved it. Loved to see it. You need some meanness on that offensive line.
Like you said earlier, they gave a shit. The emotion was there, the drive was there, and Fields was getting hit pretty hard. And I mean, the fact that they're going out there and standing up for their quarterback, you gotta like it. I mean, I hate to be the meatball and do the meatball take here, but you think the Bears would have done it for Dak Cutler guy? I'm not so sure.
No, it's when you believe in your guy, and you're following, whatever cliche this is, you follow your guy into battle, and Tevin Jenkins had his guys back, and I enjoy that. I like seeing that. And it'll be nice to see Larry Borum and Tevin Jenkins both playing in the same game, with a little bit of experience under their belt. It's funny because last night, one of the announcers was saying that, the Bears have a strong interior and Sam Mustipher plays some good football and the interior is good. They got to figure out the tackle position. And I'm like, I think it's the opposite. I think you figured out the tackle positions, and I'm not sure what we're going to do about guards, because you got one guard that's his rookie deal expires at the end of the season. And
James Daniels. Yeah.
And I don't know if he's worth the money he's probably going to be asking for in an extension. But you definitely need to upgrade at center. Definitely need to upgrade center.
Yeah, you do.
So that's weird to hear especially from a guy who's lobbying to be a GM for a team again. And that's his analysis is what most fans would see as the polar opposite of the reality.
Yeah. What I hope for going forward when it comes to this offensive line is that, we could finally put the pieces together where we want to keep them. I mean, even since we've had Cody Whitehair, we've seen him move around. It's, you want some consistency for once on this offensive line. You want guys to finally be in their established position. You want to know where Tevin Jenkins is going to be and where he's going to be most effective. And the same really goes for everybody.
Right. Let's see, Justin Fields play.
Yeah, I want to talk about that.
Listen, I see all the shiny goodness coming through. There's just a lot of things he needs to work on. Some things are out of his control. Like if he hits If he hits Cole Kmet in the hands, then I guess the only issue I have is why you throwing to Cole Kmet, because he sucks.
Do more Jesper Horsted. Like,
yes.
Fucking forget Cole Kmet or Jimmy Graham for the rest of the season. Just throw to Jesper Horsted. Fuck it. Make him your number one tight end. Look, Jimmy Graham's old. Whatever. He's old. He was a great player. He's old. Cole Kmet just continues to be really disappointing.
He can't create separation.
No.
He drops way too many passes. When there was one pass in the end zone that he just sat and waited for it to come, and the defender jumped in the middle of it. Go and attack the ball. Attack the ball. Catch that ball. Attack it. Box out the defender. Use your big body. A cornerback shouldn't be able to dart in front of you and break it away, unless it's something where he's, in the middle of the pass, he's knocking it down. But if it's right in front of you, attack that ball. Box that guy out. Use your body as a shield. Catch the ball. Don't be physical. Use your size advantage. He doesn't. He's just very passive. He's not fast enough to create separation. He doesn't run good enough routes to create separation. He doesn't have good enough hands. Can't break tackles. He is going to be a draft bust.
I mean, when you throw to him, and if he makes the catch, he's not adding any yards after the catch. And you see other tight ends do that really well. I continue to be mesmerized what George Kittle can do. That guy is just able to rumble like an Indiana Jones boulder over people. And that is a tight end I would love to see. And look, when Cole Kmet came out of Notre Dame, I thought, okay, you know what? This kid can be pretty good. I like him. I like his build. I like his attitude. And I pray that he can make mass improvements next year, and then maybe we'll have something. But this year, disappointing doesn't even begin to describe. Every game, he's got a big drop. That would have been a big game. And you're right about Justin Fields. He can't help that his targets are dropping passes. We saw Cole Kmet drop passes. We saw Jimmy Graham drop passes. We saw Darnell Mooney drop passes. We saw Daniel Bird drop passes. Everybody dropped him.
And, so he can't help that. But there are things that Justin Fields, he needs to learn to just throw the ball away when there's nothing.
That is a legitimate concern I have about him. If you want to talk about some of the legitimate gripes or concerns I have with him, that's one of them, because he took not one, but two really bad sacks last night where you sit at the TV and you just scream, throw it away. And he ends up taking the sack. That's got to get better. I'm sorry. That to me is one of the more inexcusable things that just needs to get, I hate to rail on him. I know he's a rookie. I know he's learning a lot of stuff. For the most part, I'm giving him a lot of slack, but that needs to get better. Yeah. And the other thing that I think needs to get better, he's got to hold on to the ball. Yeah, because that fumble, he was barely touched, and that thing flew out.
I went back and you look. It's the guy got a shoulder pad on him, so it wasn't his arm; it was the shoulder pad, and it was a good play by the defender. But if you're gonna run it, both hands on the ball, or switch arms and put it on the arm away from the defender that's coming flying in. But on that one, ball security was bad. But the thing that I was more annoyed with on that play was he missed the read recognition. Is when he's reading that situation, he should have dumped the ball off to, I forget who the receiver was on the outside, if that was Montgomery or whoever it was.
It might have been Montgomery, but I can't remember for sure.
Is you need to dump it off to him on that one, because in that lane you had the defender with a free lane to you, and you're coming from running, sideways to turning upfield. You don't have a head of steam or, the ability to kind of juke him out. He's got you dead to rights. And, you've got to be able to recognize how fast guys in the NFL are and how fast that they're going to come and shoot that gap. he should have just dumped it off and let the running back do what he's going to do.
And that's something you hope that he can just learn. That's something that you hope is like, okay, that's a rookie mistake. That's something that he needs to learn. And hopefully, he'll learn more of that under a new coaching regime that can cater better to him. So, that's the kind of stuff where you can identify it and say, you know what, I think that's teachable.
My three things that he needs that I put on him is the one, ball security.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That's a rookie thing. Happens to a lot of rookies. But it's in the grand scheme of things, it's easy to fix. The other one is throwing the ball away. Again, that's a rookie type mistake. I mean, there's still veterans that do it, but that's a big time rookie issue. I think you can resolve that one. And
I'm just going to be completely honest with you really quick. That worries me. That legitimately worries me. But anyway, go on.
And I'm going to come back to the throwing the ball away. I'm going to come back to that one in a second because I don't put it all on him. The decision-making part of it, yes, but there's more to it, and I want to come back to it. But the third thing is his pocket presence. He is very athletic. He's very fast. He's very strong, very big kid. And when you watch him leave the pocket, he goes backwards and around.
Mm-hmm.
Like he loops around the tackle and the edge rusher to go to the outside. That is the wrong way to do that. Is you are backing yourself up. You're opening yourself up to a guy releasing from your tackle and cutting off your angle, and you don't even have a chance to run. You're not utilizing your speed. What he should be doing is learning to step up into the pocket. And part of that is your interior offensive line is not as good as you want it to be, but you've got to be able to step up and trust your offensive lineman, trust your abilities, step up into the pocket, because that way, if a running lane opens up, you can just go and use your speed and run. Or if you do take the sack, you're not going backwards. It's going to be a six plus yard difference in loss of yards versus if you go backwards than if you step up into the pocket and take that sack.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a good point. It is a really good point. And, you can kind of see that when you watch him do it. I mean, I think those are all valid. I know there's plenty of people talking about his ability to read defenses as being a concern. And, you hope that.
I'm not that concerned about it. That guy's a competitor. His down the field reads are good. His arm is exceptional. Mm-hmm. Arm strength, ball placement. He's very good. It's, I think the offense around him and the talent around him is what needs to be improved.
Oh, I don't disagree with you there.
Is going back to where I said that he needs to throw the ball away. The caveat with that is you look at Kansas City's offense, the one where our head coach supposedly learned how to do his offensive scheme, blah, 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 is look how many dump off passes, how many screens, how many wide receiver or running back dump off passes they have. We don't utilize that underneath stuff. And that makes it's a lot easier if you're the running back or you're the quarterback, and instead of throwing it away and giving up the down, he's a competitor. And I think a lot of that is he doesn't want to concede any play. Is if you give him the opportunity to dump off underneath to a tight end screen, running back screen, or a running back dump off valve, is pick up, you pick up 2, 3, 4 yards, and it's a lot more palatable that you're, rather than, dumping it off and throwing it out of bounds, is have an offense that has a safety valve in there to allow him to dump it off underneath. I think that's going to go a lot further with his mentality and the ability to have a more smooth running offense. You look at the Patriots, is Mac Jones eats that. That's like his bread and butter, is dumping it mid-range passes to the tight ends and underneath stuff. And you just keep, and a good running game. You give your offense positive yards, even if it's only 2 or 3 yards. It's, it sets you up as a 2nd and 6, a 2nd and 7, a 2nd and 5, rather than a 2nd and 10 or a 2nd and 16 if you take the sack. It's a big difference. And I think that's part of it. You're not gonna break Justin Fields mentally. He's a tough competitor. This kid is a winner. But you're going to frustrate him. And I think you really do need to build this offense around him. And, on its slight tangent is I see a lot of people that I respect on Twitter, a lot of people I respect as commentators that are talking about different defensive minded coaches that could be a good fit for the Chicago Bears. And I just don't know if I buy into that, because I think you need to build around your young quarterback. I think you need an offensive mind, because let's say you bring in the defensive coordinator for the Buccaneers. I think he's going to be a fantastic head coach. The issue is, what is going to be your offensive system? And let's say things go well and your offensive coordinator leaves, takes his system with him. Are you going to keep are we going to relive the Lovey era where we never have consistency with our offense? And, it's one thing when you have somebody like a Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick is a defensive coach, but he knows enough about offense, and he had a good enough quarterback where they had their system, and the offensive coordinator sort of just helps refine how they're going to attack the opposing team within their offense and makes the in-game calls. Tom Brady can audible whatever he wants, but when he was still there, a couple of years ago. But that worked, but that's a different animal. I think the formula has got to be an offensive coach that's going to put in a system around Justin Fields, and a general manager that's going to give Justin Fields the tools he needs to win.
Right. And you mentioned doing more of the smaller plays, the screens, the dump offs and all that stuff. Half the battle is having the right personnel to execute that. You need the right players, you need the right scheme, you need the right blockers. It's all part of one system. You have to have all the cogs present to execute that. And, if you want to bring in an offensive minded coach, then, you could say, all right, well, we bring in an offensive minded coach and an offensive coordinator. That obviously didn't work with Matt Nagy, but when you have an asset like Justin Fields to work around and you want to utilize so much more with him, that's probably the best way to approach it. Because like you said, let's say you bring in a defensive minded coach and, you bring in a coordinator, he does well, and then he leaves. And, how many offensive coordinators did we have under Lovey? It was like what, 4?
I think
5?
4. I think 4.
Mike Tice, Mike Martz,
Ron Turner.
Was Ron Turner the Super Bowl? Who was the Super Bowl OC?
I think that was Ron Turner.
Was it Ron Turner? Okay.
Let's see. I'm pulling up the list. Let's see. What was let's see. Went from John Shoup to Terry Shea to Ron Turner. What was Lovey's first year?
04.
Okay, so he had Terry Shea his first year, his only year. Then Ron Turner from 2005 to 2009. Then Mike Martz to 2010, 2011, Mike Tice.
Yeah. We remember the Mike Martz stuff.
Listen to this awful list of offensive coordinators. So Bill Lazor now, then Mark Helfrich before that, Dow Logans, Adam Gase, Aaron Cromer, Mike Tice, Mike Martz, Ron Turner, Terry Shade, John Shoup, Gary Croton, Matt Cavanaugh, Greg Landry, Ed Hughes, Ted Marchabroda. That is just a terrible list of offensive coordinators.
Hell of a list right there. Hell of a list. Before we're done talking Bears, I have one stat about last night's game I have to share with you.
Okay. But another thing that was annoying to me is the fact that on your offensive play calling, you forgot about the run. Is, people want to throw the quarterback under the bus. They have a running back that's very good, and you passed more than twice as many times as your running back ran the ball. You can't do that. We keep telling Matt Nagy can't do that, and he just keeps doing it. Like everybody, hey Matt, you can't do that. I hear you. We're gonna figure out the whys. Does it again. Hey Matt, you can't do that. Yeah, we're gonna figure out the whys. Matt, you can't do that. The whys, and it's just it's like Groundhog Day. We keep reliving the same thing. Hey, we lost by one score. Let's throw 39 times in a game where the other team has less than 200 yards of offense and we can't score in the red zone. Let's throw 39 times.
Yeah, that's frustrating. And Dave Montgomery was popping off some really nice runs early on, and then you just abandon it.
Yeah. So, I mean, Alec Ogletree is a guy that over the last couple of weeks, people have been pretty down on, or like, he's not the answer over there. He had a pretty damn good game yesterday.
He did. I actually liked what I saw from him.
Tease Tabor, I think, played tough. He got a raw deal on that penalty.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't low block somebody. He didn't block him. He didn't block him at all. He was going to try to tackle a player. So he basically got a penalty for playing football in a football game.
Gotta love it.
That was a disaster of a call. The touchdown that they called it an incomplete pass. The fact that they reviewed it and they said the ruling on the field stands, no explanation, nothing, is like if you came out and said, listen, his ankle was down inbounds, he was inbounds, he didn't hold on to it through the process of the completion of the catch. Okay, at least I have an explanation. They gave no explanation.
No, they didn't.
That was frustrating. Like the reffing was bad in that game, and it was very one-sided. It didn't cause the Bears to lose that game. The Bears caused that loss. And we saw once again that Mark Trustman is Mark Nagy, Matt Trustman, is not the head coach for this team going forward. And I put the loss squarely on him. He was fired up. He had his team ready to play. He gave the great pregame speech, had everybody ready to play, but they went out there and nobody knew what to do. And you didn't have a game plan and you lost, even though you you tried real hard and you were playing tough. And, you need a combination of being able to get the troops ready to play and have the game plan in place to allow them to win.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, you scored 9 points.
And it almost was 3. The very last play of the game, they said that the Bears player caught the ball on the half-yard line and the game was over, and the Bears didn't have any challenges left. And they ended up, this was another one where the reffing was confusing because they were like, nope, he was caught it and he was short. And then suddenly they're like, the last play was a touchdown. All right, peace out, everybody. No explanation of anything. And I'm not really a gambler on sports, but the Bears were a 7.5 point dog, apparently, from what I understand.
Yep.
And the fact that they didn't kick that extra point cost the Bears, or people betting, to lose.
Yep. It was kind of like the playoffs. Remember, Jimmy Graham made the touchdown catch and then went straight to the locker room.
I don't know. I'm just frustrated, and I'm
3
starting
more games of this.
Yeah, what do we got? Seahawks, Giants, and Vikings.
Yep.
I just have to say, though, is I really hope the Vikings don't make the playoffs because they're terrible. They have no business making the playoffs. They're a bad team.
No, that game they played last night against virtually anybody else, they would have lost.
Yeah, had it been, Matt Nagy out with COVID, they might have even won that game with some better red zone play calling. It's the Bears had every opportunity to take that game, and they kicked themselves in the crotch every time they could.
Yep.
And handed the Vikings a win. The Vikings didn't deserve that, and they're not a good team. And I don't know how they that's a team very similar to the Bears last year, where they're not good and they might make the playoffs, and then they'll get kicked in the teeth in that playoff game.
They kind of give off that 2020 Bears vibe. The Vikings do.
And what's going to happen is you're going to have some ding dong Vikings fans that are like, you can't fire Mike Zimmer. He made the playoffs. This is like, they're like, you can't fire Matt Nagy. He made the playoffs. Sometimes I hate other Bears fans when they're just like, Matt Nagy made the playoffs. You can't fire him.
They backed into the playoffs thanks to the Cardinals choking.
Is the Bears had no business being in the playoffs. They are outcoached every game, and you're not developing players. Like, there's no reason that you have Matt Nagy back except for the fact that you either like self-punishment or you love to linger around mediocrity, because that's all you're going to get.
Hey, remember that game against the Vegas Raiders that they won in early October, the Bears?
Yes.
That was early October, right? It is now almost Christmas. Since then, the Bears have won 1 game.
Oof.
And that was on Thanksgiving, barely squeaking out against the then winless Lions. And the Lions went out and played a great game against the Arizona Cardinals. And the Lions have actually looked semi-competent in their past 2 games.
They have a better coach than we do.
The Bears legitimately might be worse off than the Lions. The only thing that the Bears have is a future quarterback.
Yeah. So it was October 10th when the Bears beat the Raiders.
The White Sox are still in the playoffs.
Yes. The White Sox actually, were still, they lost later that night. Then the Bears they eked out one on Thanksgiving, and they have not won since. And honestly, they will probably beat the Giants because Mike Glennon will be the Giants quarterback.
Yeah, and when Mike Glennon is your quarterback, you're losing on purpose.
And well, they put their quarterback on injured reserve.
Right.
So I think I saw somebody posted on Twitter. It was a list of every team Mike Glennon has played for and the salary that team paid him.
All that money the Bears gave him.
But the best part is they made the graph his long neck.
Yeah, I saw that. Someone sent me that. It was hilarious.
It was funny, but mean-spirited, but funny. So I mean, honestly, we're probably looking at the Bears being a 5-12 team this year.
Yeah, I mean, they can still beat the Vikings in week 18 or whatever, depending on how desperate the Vikings are. But, who knows? I feel like the Giants are just they're even worse off than you. So you'll eke that one out. I think that'll be a lot like the Thanksgiving game. And then, the Seahawks aren't very good, but I don't expect to go into Seattle and beat Russell Wilson.
Yeah, it's Russell Wilson in Seattle. I think that's a tough one. The Giants, you're playing against a backup quarterback at home. But then that last one is you go to Minnesota. They're probably, let's see, right now. I mean, that one really depends on how things look. But if the Vikings are still fighting for a playoff chance, they're probably going to win.
It is the Vikings, though, so you never know.
That's true. Because, man, looking at the NFC, so Cardinals are in, Packers are in, the Buccaneers are in, and then
Cowboys are on the verge, probably.
Cowboys are in. So those are your division winners. And then what are 2 wild cards? So Washington is 6-7. Eagles are 6-7. Giants out. The Rams are 9-4. 49ers are 8-6. Seattle's out. Vikings are 7-7. Bears and Lions out. The Saints are 7-7. The Packers are 6-8. Panthers are out.
Packers are 6-8.
Falcons are 6-8.
Oh, I thought you said Packers. I'm like, wait, what?
No, the Falcons are 6-8. Panthers are out. So really, I mean, the Vikings are they're in the hunt, but they are on the outside looking in.
Wouldn't they have to leapfrog both the Rams and who's the other team? 49ers.
Yeah, they have to leapfrog both of them. Let's see. What's the Rams schedule here? Rams are playing the Seahawks today, but then they play the Vikings. So the Vikings kind of control that a little bit.
Well, I feel like, I mean, if the Rams beat the Vikings, I feel like that would be a huge blow to the Vikings.
That would be huge. That would be a big blow to the Vikings. I think that would almost make it, there would be no chance for you to leapfrog the Rams at that point. But the Rams play Seattle tonight. Then they play the Vikings on Sunday. Then the Rams play the Ravens and the 49ers. So that is not an easy schedule.
No.
The 49ers play the Titans. Oops.
Titans are beatable.
They are beatable. They play, but they can also be dominant. 49ers play the Titans, the Texans, and the Rams. And the Vikings play the Rams, the Packers, and the Bears. Yeah, I'm going to say the Vikings are not going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, anything's possible, but I would bet against it.
And I'm not sure my fantasy football team is going to win. I had everybody except for Patrick Mahomes poop the bed.
Yeah, well,
CeeDee Lamb didn't do anything. Mike Evans didn't do anything. I had Conklin, the tight end for Minnesota. He had one catch for 7 yards. Somebody convinced me to play Tennessee's defense against Pittsburgh. They didn't do well. So I'm up by 24. I'm up by a decent amount, but they still have Antonio Gibson as running back tonight. Gerald Everett at wide receiver tonight, and Jalen Hurts at quarterback tonight. And all I have left is I've got Devontae Smith and Matt Stafford. So they're calculating my fantasy is calculating that I'm going to win by one point.
good luck.
Yeah, it's the first round of the playoffs, and this is a guy I dominated twice. I'm the number 1 seed, and I'm going to lose this first round.
Choking Sean.
Oh my God, every one of my players, and it's not even like I picked the wrong guys. Is who I have Julio Jones, who didn't play. I had a wide receiver that was out. I'm lucky. I was going to put James Conner in as one of my starters because Nick Chubb was questionable. And thank God I didn't. I forgot to do that because I was like, oh, James Conner is going to eat the Lions for lunch. And he didn't. He stunk. And Nick Chubb did okay. But I picked up another running back who had 8 yards rushing. I had Tyler Heineke. He is out an injury. I had Elijah Moore, who's out with an injury. I picked up Nick Mullins as a backup just in case one of my starting quarterbacks couldn't play, and he stunk on ice. I'm like, man, nobody did well, except for like if Patrick Mahomes wouldn't have crushed it in the fourth quarter and overtime.
That was a hell of a game, by the way.
Yeah, I would have been in a bad pickle.
Yeah, fantasy football ended for me a long time ago, but I am a 2-time weekly pick'ems champ this year. So that feels good. Tied for second for the most pick'em wins this year.
There you go.
Yeah, you won some decent cash too.
Nice. So what was the stat that you wanted to give?
Yes. Let me pull it up here. Okay, here we go. The Bears scored fewer than 10 points, lost 3 fumbles, turned the ball over on downs 3 times, had 90-plus penalty yards, missed a field goal. No other NFL team since the merger has done all of those things in the same game. Congratulations, Bears.
And the most important stat was Matt Nagy failed in is he didn't fight any refs. He got an unsportsmanlike penalty. He got an unsportsmanlike penalty, but he did not fight a single one. You know how much I think you would have, being 100% honest, not even being a meatball or making jokes. I think if Matt Nagy would have socked one of those refs in the mouth and then wrestled him to the ground, I think a lot more of the Bears fans have been like, you know what? Maybe we give him another year. See how it goes.
Oh, no. I
wouldn't have been one of them.
No.
But I'm just saying is, had he done that, I think some people would have been like, that's the spirit. Is honestly, if you're Matt Nagy, why don't you go to that podium and be like, you know what? Fuck you, Roger Goodell. Your officials suck ass. What are you going to do? Fire me?
Then he'd wake up with a horse's head in his bed.
I mean, Matt Nagy should be in college anyway. So if he goes to college coaching and he doesn't have to worry about Roger Goodell anymore, he could just talk all the shit he wants.
You know what Matt Nagy could have done? He could have like ripped his shirt off and then like gone all Tarzan on them.
Just, some run out with a folding chair and clobbered a ref.
What is he, Bobby Knight now?
I just want to turn it into pro wrestling. He's got
that pro wrestling face, short beard, bald head.
Oh man. I just want to put this into your brain because once you hear it, you'll be like, fuck. Is Roger Goodell is the Ted Phillips of the NFL.
I don't know how to respond to that, but I'm not going to disagree with you.
He makes them a lot of money, but he really has no idea what he's doing and making things worse. And everybody hates his dumb guts. But somehow he keeps his job forever.
Yeah. I don't know what else to say to that.
All right. Do you want to move on to NHL or do you want to move on to NBA?
Oh God, let's talk some Bulls. Let's talk some positivity here. Let's have some fun, damn it.
So, the Bulls were in a big pickle with COVID cases, and they just sort of were leading the charge because now it seems like every sports franchise is starting to get hit hard with the COVID bug. The frustrating part was the Bulls went to the league and were like, hey, this is an issue. We're devastated by COVID. We're signing guys to 10 game contracts to have enough players to be able to compete. And the league, until the Chicago health officials got involved and said, hey, we're not going to let you play it in Chicago, did the NBA finally postpone a couple of games. And so they finally allowed the Bulls to postpone 2 games?
Yeah, they postponed the game against the Pistons. They postponed the game against the Raptors in Canada.
Yeah. So you're like, okay, all right. Now things are starting to get back to normal. And you play your first game on Sunday against the Los Angeles Lakers. And you did look really good in that game.
That was a fun game. That was a really awesome game. And you went into that game seeing, okay, you got 2 shorthanded teams, but the Lakers still have LeBron. They still have Russell Westbrook. They have Carmelo Anthony. They have DeAndre Jordan. And the Bulls, they didn't have Zach LaVine. They didn't have Ayo Dosunmu. DeRozan was out for so long with COVID. He finally comes back. And what does DeMar DeRozan do? He goes out there and scores 38 points, dominates, and essentially wins you the game. The last few minutes in the fourth quarter.
Throw shade at LeBron.
Yes. Yes. And man, I was really going to be upset if the Bulls lost that game and the narrative had to be Carmelo Anthony revenge game, because Carmelo Anthony, he was popping some threes and talking some shit. It was kind of fun to watch, honestly.
I always forget that he's still in the league. And then you're like, oh, I'm watching some Lakers highlights or watching a Lakers game. You're like, oh, there he is.
Oh, there's Carmelo Anthony, 37, 38 years old, I think.
Yeah, he's got to be somewhere around there. He's up there.
Yep, future Hall of Famer, I'd say. And, you see him and you see Russell Westbrook together. It's like, man, I remember when Carmelo Anthony was a star on the Knicks, and remember when Russell Westbrook was a star on the OKC Thunder. I mean, it's kind of funny when you watch the Lakers and you see Rajon Rondo on that team too. It's like, how many big names that aren't necessarily top dogs anymore can the Lakers have on their team? You know, because there were times when all those players I listed, Rondo, Westbrook, Melo, were among the best of the best in the game, or at least at their position. You know, obviously times have changed a little bit, but you know, they could still ball out when they need to. But one of the most interesting things that I took away, you know, from watching this game from a Lakers perspective, LeBron James, when he drives to the hoop, he's still going to beat you every time. Every time. I mean, you can't stop him. When he drives to the hoop, you can't stop him. But man, when he was trying to, you know, hit threes and far jumpers, I mean, some of those shots, he was off by a mile.
Yeah. Just watching that game makes you appreciate how important the players that AK and Mark Eversley brought in to this organization this year and how important they were. Is Lonzo Ball has been an absolute gem of a pickup.
Love that guy.
He is, I mean, I think DeMar has been he's so important to making this team good. And listen, I never thought it was a bad signing. I always just wondered how you'd have enough basketballs for Vooch, Zach, and DeRozan. And you're still trying to figure out how to fit Vooch in there. As you know, it's been inconsistent play with him, but Zach and DeMar have been such a good tandem this year. It's just been so smooth, and Lonzo Ball is the cog that just makes everything work. He's between his defense and his playmaking ability, his 3-point shooting, just it's when they identified him. And it's funny, last year I said it, and I'm not like an originator where I was like, that's been my idea. I heard the rumors and I was like, I think this would be a good fit. And it would have been nice had the Bulls been able to bring him over in a trade last year and then just signed him to an extension. But, bringing him over this year, you're seeing just how much better the Bulls are this year than last year. And, you're seeing that with Zach being on the shelf. And I think he's only got a few more days before he's able to return.
Mm-hmm.
But you're seeing the Bulls being able to hold their own with a decimated lineup because of DeMar and Lonzo.
Yeah, I mean, even that guy McKinney that they brought in, they're finding guys to bring in and be useful cogs in their system. Did you really trust Garpax to do that same thing in this situation? I wouldn't. But when you don't have Zach LaVine, and let's face it, this is still Zach LaVine's team. It still is. He's the guy. But when you have everyday contributors like DeMar DeRozan and Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso, that's the difference between winning and losing games where you're shorthanded. Depth is so important. And even if your bench isn't the deepest, the fact that you have guys in the starting lineup that could step up when other guys are out. I mean, remember when it was kind of the opposite way around before all this COVID stuff happened? Remember when DeMar DeRozan was the one who was out? But everyone else, Zach LaVine, Ball, they still stepped in and they were still able to win big games in New York, both at Madison Square Garden and the Barclays Center. It's like you're seeing the rotation of these guys come in and out, Lonzo Ball being the consistent guy, and yet they're still finding ways to win games. Obviously, the game in Miami was pretty awful, but I mean, virtually everybody was out of that game, and it wasn't a good recipe for success. But you look at all the teams that they've beaten when they haven't been at full capacity, whether it's been the Nets, whether it's been the Knicks, whether it's been the Lakers, they're finding ways to get this shit done, and it's really fun to see. And they're just, the energy doesn't leave this team. it's so fun to just watch an energized team fly through the air, swipe balls away, do a little bit of everything. And when you watch these last two games against the Lakers and the Rockets, you say, all right, you're facing the Lakers one night and the crappy Rockets who beat you the other night, and you're able to go out and win both games. You didn't lose your focus. You didn't lose your cool. They didn't lose any of their step. DeMar DeRozan, he said he tried to keep busy while he was in quarantine, and he comes out and he's able to play some dominant basketball. You just love the dynamic of this team, and I can't wait for everybody to come back and they're back at full strength again.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a weird stat, but DeMar DeRozan is the first Bulls player over the last 25 years to score 50 points in the fourth quarter over a 3-game span.
Wow.
So he's really taking over the end of these games. And, Lonzo has really kept the engine going. DeMar has kept the scoring going. You're finding other guys to step in here and there, but you look at the minutes, because like the Lakers, Kobe White played a solid number of minutes at 24, but McKinney played 17, Bradley played 11, Derek Jones played 6, and Tyler Cook played 2. But your starters, Ball played 38 minutes, Caruso played 38 minutes, Vooch played 35, DeRozan played 34, and Javonte Green played 35. So you played a lot of minutes with your starters.
How about the bench scoring against the Rockets last night?
The Rockets game, that was a nice one. That was you just absolutely, I think that's like a revenge game because you lost.
Yes.
The Rockets aren't good, but you lost to them. And, those things happen. You're going to lose to a bad team now and then in a long season like that. But the Bulls came out and said, not today. And they absolutely dominated them.
That was wonderful to see. I'm like, you know what? Just go out there and beat their ass. Just make it a nice, easy game.
Yeah, you had you're up by like 20 at halftime. DeMar dropping 26. Kobe White doing great.
24 points last night.
Yep. Only 2 turnovers. That's what I like to see. Kobe White, 24 minutes, 2 turnovers. And McKinney dropped 16 in there. So you saw the bench scoring was just fantastic. And it's nice. It gave guys the ability to at least get a little rest that they haven't been able to get. But they just the Bulls didn't turn the ball over very much.
No, they didn't, and that's something that we've wanted to see them cut down on consistently. And when you have guys on the bench scoring double-digit points, 24 for Kobe White, you had 3 guys in that Rockets game score at least double digits: McKinney, Cook, and White. That's what you love to see, especially when you don't have everybody in your starting rotation healthy. So DeMar DeRozan scored 26, another nice night for him. Vucevic had 18 points. Lonzo Ball had 19 points. So, the wealth was nice and spread out, and they didn't really let up at any point, because we've seen how many times early on where the Bulls will have a really big lead and then they'll just kind of squander it. And, you have to battle back to get the win, where last night they stepped on the throats early. They didn't let it off. And that's just something you love to see. Even if it's against the Rockets, like you said, they beat them before. And, you don't really often think about beating a team that's 11 games under 500 as a revenge game. But, I'm sure the Bulls remember that night before Thanksgiving when they lost to a team that at the time had 1 win. And you heard the opposing fans cheering loud against you, obviously, because you were on the road. So, You know, they went in there with the right attitude, step on their throats, just beat them down. Don't look back.
Yeah. The only bad news of that game is Alex Caruso's injury.
I just hope it's not overly serious. I mean, I know it's like a ankle sprain, like a mild ankle sprain or something.
I think they said it was a foot. Let's see, what do they call it? Left midfoot sprain.
Did they give a timetable?
The Bulls Twitter account said Alex Caruso left midfoot sprain will miss the remainder of tonight's game versus Houston. That is it.
My hope is that when they said he was missing the remainder of the game, I'm like, okay, maybe it's not that bad and they're just not risking it. You know, they're up huge. They're beating a bad team, so no need to push it. That's what I was hoping for.
I mean, that might be the case. I mean, he might be back sooner. Let's see. Oof. I don't know the severity and I don't know. But according to Google, the time it takes to recover from a midfoot sprain depends on the severity of the injury. Mild foot sprains can heal in 4 to 6 weeks. Whereas a severe midfoot sprain may need at least 3 months to recover. That's not good news. I'm hoping it is something mild that he is.
Is that what WebMD said?
That is from Upswing Health. Mm-hmm. And that is also what sportsmd.com says.
I'll see what the team says before I start panicking.
Yeah. Sportdoctorlondon.com is saying 1 to 2 weeks. Nothing like using
Dr. Seymour Butts. What does he have to say? Dr. IP Freely.
Yeah, so I don't know. We'll see what the prognosis looks like. Hopefully he's not out very long, and hopefully it was just a, hey, you know what, we don't need him to kick the shit out of the Rockets.
Yeah.
And we'll give him a rest.
That's what I'm really hoping for, man.
But they got a game tomorrow against the Raptors. And then they don't play again until Sunday. So I'm guessing he probably won't play tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's one of those games you're playing at home, and hopefully you could just easily say, we don't need him. We can take care of this ourselves.
Yeah, that's the hope. I know he's been a big time contributor, but I think, the Raptors team is they're meh. They're not a good team. They're not a bad team. They're middle of the road. Even without Caruso and Zach, I still think the Bulls should be able to win. Now, if they win, that's just a different story.
Yeah, exactly.
And looking at the standings, man, the Nets really shot up the standings. But Bulls are 2, Cavaliers are 3.
Wow, they're that high.
Bucks are 4, Heat 5, 76ers 6, Wizards 7, Hornets 8. And it's funny, teams that over the last couple of years were good. Celtics would be out. Raptors would be out of the playoffs. Hawks, I thought they'd be much better. They wouldn't.
Yeah.
The Knicks have just really come back down to earth.
Mm-hmm.
Pacers are no good. Magic no good. The Pistons no good.
Don't the Pistons only have like 4 wins?
5?
They have 5 now. Okay.
Yeah.
I know Cade Cunningham is looking pretty good, so that's kind of what's important to them.
Yeah, and then you've got the Suns and the Warriors who just smashing everybody.
Yeah. And the Lakers right now are only, what, a game above 500?
They're 16 and 15.
Yeah.
They're 9 games behind the Suns.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, if you're the Bulls, you're a good team. You're a really good team. And if the playoffs were to start today, you'd be playing the Wizards. The
Wizards.
You'd be playing the Wizardry. But what I'm curious about with the NBA is with the number of cases rising and games being postponed, and in a couple of days you'll be past your Christmas schedule of games, which is really important to the NBA. What they're going to do with the rising number of COVID cases, because you've got the two extremes with the other sports. The NHL is pressing pause for 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So there's going to be no hockey at all for a couple of weeks, and then see from there. And then the NBA or the NFL is saying, we'll have less positive cases if we just don't test people and let them give us the honor system.
It's like that thinking meme. Can't test positive if you don't test.
Yeah, that's pretty much what's happening. If you're vaccinated in the NFL, they're going to test you less, and then just have the honor system of how you're going to proceed.
Did Dr. Joe Rogan give him that advice?
Joe Rogan was, let's stick a plum up our ass and up our nose and every half hour switch, and that should cure COVID.
Yeah, there you
go. And so I wonder which way the NBA is going to go, because they're going to have to make a decision on how they proceed with the rising number of cases.
Yeah, and you look at the NBA and the NHL, you're in the middle of your season. The NFL is approaching the playoffs. So, it's not like this is prior to the season starting and delaying. This would be, you got two scenarios where it's right in the middle of your season, and a scenario where the most important time of the year is coming up.
Yeah, the NFL is just going to sweep everything under the rug.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I mean, you look at the NBA and teams are small, rosters are small. So when you have a couple of guys out, that's a big deal. Where hockey, you get guys out, they're taking much bigger precautions. They're canceling games. They're basically putting shutdown until after Christmas. But, if there was a need to expand, bring more guys up, you have the American Hockey League, you have a lot of depth where, with basketball, you see what the Bulls are doing. They're having to go out and just sign guys.
Yep. And so I'm just curious of how the NBA is going to go, because you're right. Is a couple of players on a team have an outbreak, and they were reading the other night. They were reading, like who the starting roster of, is it the Nets? Maybe I forgot what team it was. They were just reading who the starters were, and I'm like, I don't know any of those guys. I don't know any of these guys. You have a roster of nobodies that you have to play because everybody else has COVID.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I'm in a fantasy basketball league, and like half of everybody's lineups are like out.
Yeah, it's like that's got to be like a frustrating. And
we only have one IL spot right now. Commissioner's lobbying to get more.
Yeah, but you have like some teams that are just absolutely decimated. Let's see. Atlanta Hawks, 3 players in protocol. Celtics have 6 players. The Nets maybe it was the Nets. But the Nets roster, because Aldrich is out, Durant is out, Irving is out, Harden is out, Millsap is out. Like, how do you play games like that?
I don't know, man. That's tough.
Let's see. Did they even play or were they postponed? Oh, they postponed it. But yeah, their roster, it was the Nets. That's who it was. It was their roster was a bunch of guys you've never heard of.
Mm-hmm. Like, Joe Schmo.
Yeah.
Ding Dong George was out there.
Ding Dong George. I'll play, guys.
Starting at the point guard position, number 5, Ding Dong George.
That would be amazing. But hockey, not a lot of hockey going on. The league pressed pause on the season through Christmas.
And the players ain't going to the Olympics.
The players are not going to the Olympics, which...
That's going to be your time to make up these postponed games.
Yeah. I mean, it sucks. I liked seeing the NHL players in the Olympics.
Me too.
But
it was like a big all-star game kind of, but actually
Yeah.
had a little more at stake.
Yeah. So it was, I don't know. It was always fun. And I get where it's probably frustrating for teams because you're like, hey, I've got guys that are a lot of guys on my team that are playing more hockey during this break. But you know, it's these guys want to play and compete for their home countries. And I get it. And it's nice to see, you know, these awesome games. And I'm sure we're going to get good hockey, but it's, you know, we're probably going to get a hodgepodge in there where you're going to get, I'm imagining the KHL is probably going to send guys. So you're probably going to see the Eastern Bloc countries dominate. And, you know, America's probably going to send like minor league players and young players out there. So it's just going to be
like the old
game.
days.
Yeah, it'll be like the old days.
Like the Miracle on Ice days.
Yeah, we got pros versus kids.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say about the Blackhawks.
They like losing in overtime.
That's true. Jujhar Khaira returned to practice.
Really good to see.
Yeah, because they said he was long term he was going to be okay, but that's a, you know, that means like, oh, long term he'll be okay. Like he'll be able to remember who his kids are and drive a car, and like that doesn't tell me anything about like what his professional sports future looks like.
Right.
And you know, that was like as vague of an answer as you can give. Luckily he did return to practice, and it's not going to be a serious injury. So that's a positive.
Yeah. Because that was really scary when that happened. Really scary.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you know, that hit, I don't think it was dirty, but I don't think it was clean either.
Yeah, no, it wasn't like the cleanest hit, but it wasn't like intentionally dirty or intentionally bad. You know, he had his head down, unfortunately, and it just it was a bad situation. It was just a bad situation. I don't think he maliciously went out there and hurt Jujhar Khaira. He's not Rafi Torres.
That's exactly what the analogy I said is, I don't think it was malicious. And Rafi Torres was the exact person that you know, I brought up when I was talking to other people, but it definitely wasn't clean either. Like it was gray area, and you know, it sucks that somebody had to get injured but luckily it's not going to be anything serious.
Right.
But on the flip side is Brett Connolly got a 4-game suspension for his hit on Tanner Caro.
Yeah.
And I think that was a very similar type hit.
I have to go back and rewatch it because I didn't see it live. I only saw a small clip of it, but yeah, that looked like a scary moment too, obviously. So you hope Tanner Caro is all right. But it's weird. You've seen over a few weeks' time the Blackhawks involved in multiple big hits, which I know it happens in hockey. It's just seems like it's been a reoccurring theme lately.
Yeah, and I watched that hit, and again, I would probably lump that into very similar as the Jujhar Caro hit, where was it an illegal hit? I don't think it was a legal hit, but I don't think there was anything malicious behind it.
Right.
And and the latest on Tanner Caro is he's got a concussion.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't think he's going to be out that long. So luckily
that's good.
It's not going to be anything super super terrible, because you definitely don't want to see anybody get hurt on a gray area play. And I don't know if that hit warranted a 4-game suspension, but here we are.
Right. Yeah.
But ultimately the Blackhawks are in a tough spot, I think. We're not close to the trade deadline, but you got to start thinking about the trade deadline.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to make a decision on guys.
You're too deep in a hole.
Like, do you get the blessing to trade a Marc-Andre Fleury?
I would just hope that if there was going to be a trade, the return would be worth their while, not trade just the trade.
I mean, here's my thinking on it. And listen, is Marc-Andre Fleury better than Kevin Lankinen? Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, no question.
No, nobody except for maybe Kevin's mom and grandma would argue at that point. But the thing is, both guys are going to be free agents at the end of the season, I believe. So you gotta figure out who your goalie is, and I don't think you're re-signing Marc-Andre Fleury.
I mean, is Marc-Andre Fleury even going to be playing much longer?
I don't know, but even if he is, why is he going to come back to the Blackhawks? And Kevin Lankinen, you got to figure out, is he worth re-signing?
Well, you drafted some goalies not too long back, and you got to develop some of those guys, but I don't think they're on the path to the NHL really quickly. And I don't really know what the free agent goaltender market looks like, but you might have to. I mean, you need somebody. I mean, I don't think Colin Delia is going to be the answer for the NHL level. He's been in your organization for quite some time now. He's done some good things in the AHL, but, in the NHL, it just hasn't really materialized. So, Kevin Lankinen, you might have to go out and, you might have to pay him just to have somebody and then sign somebody else. Malcolm Subban, you traded away. So that's not an option anymore. I haven't really been following the goaltenders they've drafted, but, you're going to have to do something. And either way, I don't see Marc-Andre Fleury being a Blackhawk past this year.
Yeah. So his deal expires at the end of the year. Same thing with Kevin Lankinen. And I just like, even if he does play, and I think if he wants to, I think he's still got gas in the tank. Why wouldn't he want to go to a competitor or somebody that,
Right.
unless he really feels that the Blackhawks are going to turn it around in the offseason. But I think if you can dump that salary and bring something back, that might be worthwhile. But then you get the opportunity to see more of Kevin Lankinen, because I don't think I know enough about him to feel confident in re-signing him, unless you're going to re-sign him for another short-term deal. I just, or are they going to go out and try to find another veteran to be a stopgap?
And you might have to do that. I mean, honestly, no matter what you do next year, you're probably going to have a veteran goaltender.
Yeah, I mean, you just, you got yourself in a pickle situation, I think.
Yeah, I mean, whoever's going to come in and be this full-time GM or president or whatever is going to have their work cut out for them. Here's a little bit of a snapshot of free agents, goaltenders looking into next year. So Marc-Andre Fleury, Mikko Koskinen, Darcy Kemper, Thomas Greiss, Yaroslav Halak, Corey Schneider. Wow, he's still a thing. Braden Holtby, Martin Jones, Jack Campbell, good friend Anton Forsberg, Colin Delia, Phoenix Copley. Wow, a lot of AHL guys in here. Kevin Lankinen, Calvin Pickard, Jean-Francois Berube, Carter Hutton, remember him? Garrett Sparks, Elmhurst great. I had to shout him out there. Craig Anderson, Maxim Lagasse, former Chicago Wolf great. Andrew Hammond, the Hamburglar, Ville Huso. That's a snapshot at some of your free agent goaltenders. So obviously the biggest name far and away on this list, just in terms of name, is Marc-Andre Fleury. But you look at the rest of the pool, it's like, well, okay, you got Yaroslav Halak, you got Thomas Greiss, Darcy Kemper. I mean, the pickings for veteran goaltender are going to be pretty small. I mean, Yaroslav Halak is 36, 37. So yeah, Braden Holtby, he was once a big name with the Washington Capitals. He's 32, I believe. Jonas Corposello, he's going to be one of those free agents. He's making $2.8 million this year. I mean, there's guys on the board, but most of those guys to me don't really shout everyday goaltender these days. They're either veteran backup or, maybe you create a two-headed monster somehow. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. So, Lankinen's a free agent at the end of the season. Marc-Andre Fleury. Marc-Andre Fleury is a free agent at the end of the season. And so that would leave you with, I think, Colin Delia, I believe, has one more year left on his deal.
According to this, he's a free agent to Spot Trek.
Oh, no, you're right. Yeah. So he's a free agent, Colin Delia. So that would leave you with the other goalie that you have in Rockford, which is Arvid Soderblom.
Okay.
That is your goalie.
Okay. What's Nikolai Habibulin up to these days? Guy's gotta be 50 by now?
Let's see. Arvid Soderblom is under contract. Yeah, he's under contract for next year as well. So they will have one goalie in their system because
Sweet.
all their other goalies are either in college or playing in the KHL. So they'll have one goalie to split between the Ice Hogs and Blackhawks.
You know, you can't help but wonder, are the Blackhawks thinking of trading Marc-Andre Fleury not only to get something in return, but the prospect is saying, you know what, we're pretty much waving the white flag at this point. I mean, in my opinion, this season's already any chance the playoffs that's all over. You're looking to see what you have for the next regime. You know, they might be thinking if we trade Marc-Andre Fleury, that'll just give us time to really see what Lankinen is.
That's my opinion. Is like you give even if you don't get a lot back.
You're not gonna get a lot back. I mean, let's be real.
You save the money you would pay him, you let him go to a contender, and you see how Lankinen's going to do, if he's worth bringing back. Because if Lankinen plays well, I think you would rather bring him in than a 400-year-old free agent goalie.
Well, right, yeah. I mean, if you could find somebody in-house that you already know, obviously you'd have to re-sign him, but you know, somebody you're familiar with and they show enough promise, then that would, you know, they probably like that.
Yeah, and the word is that the interim general manager for the Blackhawks has been given a green light to make any trades come the trade deadline. So there won't be any restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, honestly, who are the names that they could probably be traded, likely trade? Fleury,
Mm-hmm.
DeHaan,
Mm-hmm.
Strome.
Yeah, I mean, that's been a rumor for how long now?
Maybe Kubalik.
I don't know if they're going to trade him. They might see him as a future piece. I don't know. Obviously, we've speculated the possibility of Kane and Tays waiving their known trade clauses, but I don't think Tays has as much value right now. I mean, Kane would, but I'm not going to bet on that, on them being traded at right now, at least. I don't think they trade Connor Murphy, but nah, I don't think they trade Connor Murphy. You need some defensemen. I'm trying to think who else. You said Calvin DeHaan.
Yep.
You said Marc-Andre Fleury. Obviously, you're not going to trade DeBrincat. You know, you're not going to trade, probably not going to trade Ian Mitchell. Tyler Johnson's been hurt, so he hasn't been playing. Obviously, you're not trading Seth Jones. Probably not trading Caleb Jones either.
Probably not.
No. Let me look at the rest of the roster. I'm just thinking off the top of my head right now. It's hard to remember who's up, who's down. Because I still believe Ryan Carpenter is with the organization. I just don't think you'll get anything there.
You will get nothing. You'll get nothing and like it.
I mean, honestly, the thing is that unless you're trading Patrick Kane, you're not looking at big returns for any of these guys.
No, honestly, I mean, I guess you're probably just trying to shed some money from your books, and if it's guys that you're not going to build around, you're not going to continue with, might as well just churn the roster a bit.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan Carpenter's played 27 games, but he's got 3 points, no goals. You know, you're not going to trade Kirby Doc. Eric Gustafson, you might be able to flip for a bag of pucks. Jake McCabe, maybe. Brett Connolly's played 2 games. Yeah, there's just not a lot here. I think I would be shocked if Dylan Strome isn't traded, no matter what. Even if you get back packing peanuts, I just have that feeling he's going to be traded.
Yeah. I mean, the only reason I said Kubalik is he's going to be a restricted free agent at the end of the season.
And he's older than I thought. I thought he was like 23, 24. He's 26.
Yeah, he's not old, but he's not young either.
Right.
You got, I didn't realize that Taves and Kane's contract only has 1 more year after this year.
Yeah. Which makes you wonder if they're going to try to be as aggressive as possible. I think despite all the great things they did for the team, I really think you just got to hit the reset button here.
I mean, it's one thing if they're willing to take a very, very reasonable, at least Taves, a reasonable deal. I still think you can pay Kane. He's still a high performer. But you can't pay him $10 million.
No.
But yeah, I mean, you got man, next year the big money starts for Seth Jones. I don't know why you paid him all that money.
Well, that was Stan Bowman's doing.
Stan getting one last jab in on this team.
Yep.
I mean, you really, after this season, let's see. Kubalik's a free agent. Shaw's contract's off the books. Dylan Strome is a free agent. Ryan Carpenter's a free agent. Kirby Doc is a restricted free agent. Philip Kurashev's a restricted free agent. Reese Johnson's a restricted free agent. Curtis Gabriel is a free agent. Calvin DeHaan is a free agent. Connor Murphy's a free agent. Caleb Jones is a restricted free agent. Eric Gustafson's a free agent. Marc-Andre Fleury's a free agent. Kevin Lankin's a free agent. You don't have a lot of guys on the books.
No, you don't.
Yeah, so you've got to fill 1, 2, 3, like 13 spots, and you've got like $30 million. I think you could do that.
And we'll see what happens.
I don't know if you'll field a good team and do it, but
yeah, I know. I don't know. It feels like this team is just so far away from being legit again.
Oh yeah. I mean, they are so far away. They're so far away. I honestly was hoping that you could have some sort of like reset and on the fly and do it. And you're not.
No.
And maybe the year after you, because you're once those Taves and Kane contracts come off the books is in 2023, you've only got 7 guys under contract, but your payroll is at $23 million.
Mm-hmm. And then, maybe the cap will actually go up next year.
So I don't know. What's the cap looking like?
Yeah, we'll see when that actually happens. Because remember, they expected the cap go up this year and it didn't. That's why a lot of teams had to go out and trade their guys because they just had to cut salary.
Yeah. The NHL expects salary cap to increase by $1 million for 2022, 2023.
We'll see what actually happens.
So, yeah. Not a ton. Not a ton there.
No.
Yeah, so we'll sort of see. But I don't think the NHL trade deadline is for a while. It's March, so we got a while.
Yeah.
It's got a long while before we can, but I'm sure these conversations are starting to happen because the Hawks aren't going anywhere. You look at these standings and they are just the Blackhawks are just spinning their wheels, really.
Yeah. You just got to get through this season so they can hire a new regime.
Yeah. I mean, they're far from being dead last, but they are in their division. They're behind the Wild, the Predators, the Blues, the Avalanche, the Jets, and the Stars.
Oof.
And they've only got 26 points.
Not great.
No. But baseball, we are still in the lockout. And I don't think that lockout's going anywhere anytime soon.
Nope. They won't even start negotiating until after the holidays. And there's too much to work out and not much else to say, really.
Have you even seen what the big sticking points are?
I've seen some of it.
I haven't really looked, to be honest. I mean, I don't even know if we're going to get like more specifics until they actually sit down at the table.
Right.
But the fact that they're not even willing to meet and they've wasted how many weeks because they haven't met in a 2 weeks ago was the last time they met. And then they're not going to meet at all this week or next week. So you're missing like 3-4 weeks of negotiation time. And honestly, there's, you may think, oh, well, it's only January or whatever. Even if they ironed it out, you still have to finish free agency. There's still quite a few free agents out there, and pitchers and catchers report in February.
Yeah, I don't think anything's going to start on time. Honestly, I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to be in for a long lockout this time.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm looking. So far it's been a 20-day lockout. And spring training doesn't begin until mid-February and real games don't start until April. So I guess they feel that they can sort of just lackadaisically, take their time on this. I don't see it as that way. I mean, you look at the free agents, they're still major. Like you're the number one free agent in the book or on the board is still not signed. Like you've got guys that are like, I don't know, man, if I was Carlos Correa, wouldn't you have tried to sign before this to have that security of, oh yeah, I got this. I know who I'm playing for. I know what's going on and whatnot before the lockout happens.
Yeah, I would. I mean, you have him, you have Nick Castellanos, among others. That's Carlos Rodon. There's still guys out there. Plenty of them.
Looking at the history of the lockouts. So 72, there was a strike. 13 days, 86 games lost. 73, there was a lockout. 18 days, no games were lost. 76, there was a lockout. 17 days, no games lost. 1980, there was a strike. 8 days, no games lost. 81, there was a strike. 60 days, 713 games lost. 85, there was a strike of 2 days, no games lost. 1990, there was a lockout, 32 days, no games lost. 1994, there was a strike, 232 days, 938 games lost. And did baseball struggle to come back from that? I don't think it still has fully come back from that.
No. No,
I mean,
that did a lot of damage.
That did a lot of damage. And I think both sides, I hope they really consider that when they look at, the damage that did and overcoming this, because right now,
Well, they can't afford to have a lockout that long.
Right now, as it stands, we are in the fourth longest baseball stoppage since before 1972 currently. And I think very soon it's sure to beat the 1990 one of 32 days. So then that just leaves the strike of 81 and the strike of 94.
Yeah. 2 infamous strikes.
It's just frustrating as a fan to watch. I'm sure there's going to be the topics that are in play are the service time issue, salary cap versus luxury tax threshold, the playoff format, I would imagine.
That has to be one of them.
Yeah. I don't know. It's hard to, I wonder which ones are going to be the sticking points. I would imagine service issue.
That's going to be a big one.
I wonder how much, though. Teams are starting to work around that by just extending the guy. We saw that with Wander Franco. We saw that with some of the guys on the White Sox. I wonder if that's as big of an issue. I'm sure it's an issue, but I wonder if that's one that Major League Baseball will throw a bone on, or if they're going to fight that one.
I think they're going to fight that one. I think they are.
And I'm just trying to see where, I can see the players union digging in on that one.
Yes, absolutely.
Playoff format. I don't know if that one's going to be a sticking point. Agreeing on things, yes, is probably just the financial share. But salary cap versus luxury tax threshold, I'm sure that's going to be a big one because
yep.
Players never want to cap because that impacts their pay. But
there's too much parity too. There's, it's really hard to enforce that. You might have a spend limit, or a floor, so you have to spend X number of dollars.
I think a floor is a big one. I think that's got to be a bigger sticking point.
Yeah.
You've got some teams that just don't spend any money.
Right. Like the Oakland A's.
And right now the Mets have a almost $236 million payroll. And then Cleveland has a $29 million payroll.
Wow.
Baltimore has a $23.5 million payroll. Pittsburgh has a $21 million payroll. I think you probably have to set a floor at like 75.
Probably something in that range.
Which would be, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 teams below that. Tampa Bay, Kansas City, Oakland, Minnesota, Seattle, Arizona, Miami, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Cleveland.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of teams below a $75 million payroll. I think that's probably a big sticking point too.
Yeah, for sure.
But we probably won't know anymore until they actually sit down at the table.
And that's not going to be for a few weeks.
Yeah, and I think at that point we can really start dissecting the sides and where they're at and the options.
Yeah, for sure.
But is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Nope, I've said my piece.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com. Follow Alex at AlexanderJPatCreative.com for all of the awesome things that Alex does, because he's a very talented guy. Share this podcast with your friends. That's how we grow the show. And thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like Denver New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes.
Bears 31 to -7.
The Bears.
Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.